The question that Jesus is responding to in our gospel parable today is the question of when will the world end? When will be the end of time? When will the Son of Man come? What Jesus seeks to do is to wake up his disciples and have them understand that when the Son of Man will come again and when the end of the world will be is not what is significant in terms of a question. The real question is, how will you live between now and that time that is to come? In today's gospel, Jesus tells us the parable of the talents. The master calls some of his slaves, gives to them various number of talents in accordance with their ability, the gospel writer says, and then he goes off. He comes back later for an account. Now, it's important for us to realize that in the time of Jesus, there was a coin that was called a talent. It was ordinarily silver. It was worth a huge amount of money. The one talent was about 60 pounds. And so the servant to whom he had been given 5 talents would have been given about 300 pounds of coinage. 1,000 denarii is equal to 1 talent. The denarii was another type of coinage in the time of Jesus. And ordinarily a man working for a day's wage would have been equal to 1 denarii. So, in other words, it would take over 3 years to make that which was equal to 1 talent. And as usual, Jesus surprises his hearers with a story to tell them something about what is essential for life. And we too learn from the story if we apply this story to our own lives. The story in today's gospel is not about how we invest our money, whether we invest in a bank or mutual funds or the stock market or something else. The parable of the talents of today's gospel is about how do we invest our hearts? How do we invest our ability to love? How do we invest our ability to serve? How do we invest our ability to keep our commitments? The gospel today is about how do we reach out and meet the needs of others within our family, within our community, amongst our neighborhoods, and within the world in which we live. In other words, how do we invest in the gift of faith that we have been blessed with in our lives? The message of Jesus in the parable of the talents is that it doesn't matter how small or how great the talents, gifts, or abilities that have been given to you. What is important, what is significant is you name them and you own them and you claim them and you live them and you share them with others. He points out to us it's irresponsible just to sit back and let other people meet the needs of the world that is around us. We are called to do our part. And the gospel points out that if you don't do your part, there could be serious consequences. And so the challenge is the question of what changes are we going to make in our lives? Or in other words, if we knew that our death was imminent, if we knew that we would die in a short period of time, would our thinking change? Would our living change? Would our loving change? Would our forgiving change? Or would we live just as we live, right up to and including the moment of death? The woman of worth, the wife of worth that we meet in today's first reading of Proverbs, developed her talents. She used most of her blessings. And her day-to-day existence was of such a quality that all with whom she encountered on that day, whether it be family members or the poor or the needy, all of them benefited. 2 of the slaves that we meet in today's gospel do their best to use their time and their talents and the opportunities that are afforded to them. They use their ability in such a way as to render an admirable account of their day-to-day existence. However, the third slave cops out. He allows his fear and his bitterness to control him. And as a result of his procrastination, he is considered to be worthless and lazy and undeserving of any of his master's joy, the gospel will tell us. You know, the gospel today is kind of scary. Has Jesus got our attention yet? The gospel message is, living gospel is a serious matter. Do we hear the echo of the gospel that's challenging us by saying, stop with the excuses, get a life? The servant who buried the 1 talent did not want to take the responsibility for his master's investment in him. He knew all the rules. He knew that if he went out and he buried his talent, which he did, and covered it up, and someone else dug it up and stole it, he'd be off the hook. He'd be free and clean. Because that was the rule. And that was the law. And so the third slave of today's gospel story hides behind safety. He hides behind comfort. He's not taking any chances. He's following the letter of the law and the rules as they are. And what gospel is pointing out to us today is this is not what life is about. This is not what love is about. This is what not keeping a commitment is about. This is not about what following Jesus is all about. We are called to leap into faith. We are called to risk in love. We are called to reach out to those around us who are in need. We are called to be good stewards. We are called to be good managers of God's world entrusted to us and to make God's world a better place. And so today's parable of the challenges calls us to name and own and claim our talents, our abilities, our gifts, to share them with others so that all can live in the light, so that we can rid the world in which we live in darkness. In the One Heart, One Soul campaign that our Bishop Crosby is launching within our parish in February of 2021, it is the dream and the vision and the hope of Bishop Crosby that we will build up the church of the Diocese of Hamilton by using our talents and our gifts and our abilities. He's calling us all to be good stewards. The fact that he wants to give $3.5 million to the poor parishes of the Diocese of Hamilton is quite admirable. His commitment to provide funding for ministry to the migrant workers that come to work in Canada, to support the ministry to prisons, the ministry in hospitals, the ministries in universities, is in accordance with the priorities of the gospel. His plan to raise $35 million over a period of 3 years within the diocese is daunting. Now, the good news is he's not asking each of our families to give $1 million unless we win the lottery. The challenge is he's going to ask us to make a sacrificial gift over a period of 3 years, a sacrificial pledge over a period of 3 years. And Bishop Crosby would remind us that the One Heart, One Soul campaign is more than fundraising. It's about the people of God leading in and working together to build up the church. It's one heart, one soul. Praise be Jesus risen. Amen.